So should you buy a Japanese import? The simple answer is yes and no. Because you need to know what you're looking for and what you're actually buying. Many people import Japanese cars, not just your GTRs, Skylines and stuff like that, but regular cars such as this Golf GTI. This is an edition 35. But you might be asking, why are people importing them when you can just buy them in the UK? Well, in Japan, they got some strange laws regarding cars. First of all, people in Japan don't keep their cars for that long, especially no more than 9 years, because the taxes in Japan, cars get so expensive that it just makes sense to buy a newer car. I'm not going to go into much details about their taxes, you can just Google that up, but simple as it is, every year you pay more and more tax on the car you bought, and it's calculated from the original price. Let's just say this car was 30 grand in Japan, and every year the tax starts on 5%, and every year it doubles, so first year is 5%, then 10%, and so on. So by the time it gets to like 5 years old, you're still paying the high tax that was based on the original purchase price. So that's why the cars get sold and exported to the different countries. You'd be surprised how many taxis, especially Toyota Priuses, are actually Japanese imports. Japan actually got very strict car laws and rules. So their MOTs is super strict. So you know most of the cars are in actually pretty good, decent condition, especially if they've been driven when you are buying it. There's loads of companies that import them for you. They do all the paperwork, they swap out the headlights and everything that you need, and your clocks and clusters to make sure they are in miles per hour instead of kilometers. But the main issue is, it's rust. In Japan, so your regular cars such as Toyotas, Golfs, Previas, actually turn out to be quite even cheaper than actually buying one in UK, and you know the car's been taken care of because of the laws I mentioned before. But that doesn't mean there's no horror stories. There's quite a few horror stories of people buying a car imported from Japan and it actually turned out to be quite poor condition because they didn't know what they were buying. If you're not sure, get a pre-purchase inspection done by someone that actually knows what they're doing and what they're looking for. But there's a few caveats to this, especially with maps. In Japan, I think till 2005 or 6, they had sulfur in their fuel, which in Europe we don't. So cars will be mapped differently. So some cars will actually be quite not fuel efficient because they are not using the correct fueling, because their fuel is slightly different to our European jungle juice that we have. So you might have to get your car remapped to a European standard. Another big issue is loads of insurance companies that actually want to insure imports. So, and the insurance might be more expensive. That's the case with this. If this was a UK spec, UK delivered car, the insurance would be about 20% cheaper than as an import. Another issue is if you're ever looking for parts and you just put your reg in, 9 times out of 10, it will not come up with the correct car. Because I know this is a Mark 6 Golf GTI, but it's got the previous generation Mark 5 GTI engine. You have to actually fill it out manually as yourself as a Mark 5 GTI and get the parts. And then mix and match, make sure you look at the part number and then buy the part number from what you found. That was the case with the high pressure fuel pump. The high pressure fuel pump went wrong on it. Watch the previous video there or there, whichever. And the only way to find the correct one is actually take it apart and have a look at the part number on it. Japanese cars come with some funny Easter eggs. Obviously you got your Japanese writing everywhere. It's more than likely that your car's going to be all set in Japanese unless it's been converted by the importer. This car actually had the Japanese radio in it, as well as a speed camera jammer, you know, like a speed sensor jammer. So that's quite a fun fact. All the Japanese cars have to come with a flare, so this car had a flare when it came with it, as well as it's got this funny light around the key. No other country do this apart from Japan, so your keyhole has to be illuminated in Japan for some reason, so only Japanese cars have this, which is, it doesn't make any difference to you, but that's just a funny Easter egg that Japanese cars have to have this. If you're ever paying for like tolls or anything like this, obviously when you put your reg in, you won't automatically find where it is, and you have to put your, you know, what car is manually. But that actually might turn out to be more expensive in some cases. But there's one good thing about importing Japanese cars. They're usually way cheaper to tax. This car would be about around £360 to £400 a year a tax. And how much is it now? And it's £270. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. So that's a good quirk to it. So cars in Japan are actually quite expensive. Majority of people in Japan drive K cars. But people who want to buy a proper car, like a full-size car like this one, usually are quite well off. So they end up buying the top spec one. Like this guy, whoever bought this first, bought the Edition 35, and he got almost every single option apart from the sunroof. So he had the half and half seats, the adjustable dampers, your shock absorbers, so you can switch between manual, sport and comfort. The reason why it makes sense to import regular cars like this one from Japan is because of the specs. The spec is usually the top-notch spec. It's very rarely that you don't get every option. In Japan, they see cars as a luxury, not as a commodity. Like everyone has a car in UK. But in Japan, it's not like that because you have to be well off. You have to have a parking space to have one. So when it comes to selling them and they're getting a newer car, they want to get rid of it as quick as possible. So there's usually good bargains to get. If you're actually buying a car from straight from Japan, not the one that's already been imported, you're usually buying it from actually an auction, and their auctions are something completely else that we have in UK. You can either learn to speak Japanese, but usually you can get a translator to translate the paperwork for you. The breakdown of the sheet, it literally says there's so many pictures, they take loads of pictures, there's annotations to everything. So their auctions are like so transparent. You know exactly what you're buying even before you see it in person. So you can buy cars from abroad. All you need to do is find the importer that actually brings it to you, and then you have to go through the paperwork of registering it in UK, putting MOTs on it and so on, and you will receive your new plates for it. It's actually quite a straightforward process. It's just you have to tow the car to the place where it gets MOT'd for the first time. But before it gets MOT'd, some things have to get changed. Some cars have to get different headlights. This one has got different headlights to the Japanese market. It really boils down to what car you're buying. So it really boils down to if you want to put the effort in. If you find your dream car and you actually really want it, you have to put some legwork into it. If it's not already imported, you have to fill out all your paperwork by yourself, pay all the fees and so on. But some cars are worth it. Like this one was already imported, so the owner didn't have to go through all the hassle of doing the paperwork itself. But if you find a car that you really like, I think it's worth it. The cars 99 times out of 100 are spot on. Because mechanics in Japan, they see it as a passion, not just as a job, so they take care of the cars quite well. Cars are driven by usually wealthier people, so they don't spend any money on maintaining the car. This car was maintained really well. If you found this video useful, give us a like, leave us a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.